I'm telling you, Zach Knight played a dirty trick on me. For my next book, I I've been watching a Japanese miniseries. It has 30. It's about 35 hours long, and somebody uploaded it to a YouTube channel, and I was able to see it, watching it with the CC closed captions. And Zach Knight took that channel down, and it's the only channel where you can watch it um, without without it stopping and stalling all the time. Well, I finally figured out a way where I could get it on my computer. I was able to download it to my computer, but it's such a shame that people can't watch that. It's the story of my Oshu Fujiwara ancestors, and they were. It's fascinating history. Anyways, thank God Jesus showed me how to get it on my computer. It took me forever. I spent 2 whole days working on this project, so now I've got the whole mini-series on my computer. It's all in Japanese, so I don't understand everything, but I'm doing tremendous amount of research for this book, and it's going to be written from the point of view of Robin Williams and Jesus Christ, mostly Jesus Christ. So the book's going to open with Jesus dying on the cross and why he went to the cross. And the whole theme of the book is going to be that, well, first of all, I'm going to have a scene with Jesus and God the Father where they're talking about uh, the fact that they're kind of lonely and they want companionship. And so they decide to create the angels and the first earth. And God, the Father's having a discussion with Jesus and saying, Jesus, are you sure you want to go through with this? And Jesus says, I've got to have my bride. She says, I want to have fellowship. I want companionship. And even though I enjoy my time with you, God the Father, I want my bride. And God says, well, do you want your bride to love you like an automaton? Or do you want her to have free will? And he says, well, Father, you know the answer to that. And so my whole next book is going to be a travel through history, exploring the soul of Jesus and his struggle to maintain his happiness, knowing that in order to get his bride, he has to condemn most of the human race to hell. And the only way he can be happy about this, or that he can have peace about this, is knowing that the King David and Catherine the Great Woman will come on the scene and will be the recipient of his semen in the millennium. So I'm showing how Satan tried to prevent me from coming on the scene, and how even now, after I am on the scene, he's tried to kill me, he's tried to sabotage my love life, um, deprive me of the rights of my ancestry, because like Howard Hughes was my great uncle, and I'm going to show you a picture of Howard Hughes and my great grandma and my great grandpa, and you can see that he was my great uncle. And my great grandma's name was Sabrina. I had to do some research on my Jewish ancestry for this book, and what I've discovered is just so fascinating. So, anyways, the way the story is going to be structured, my next book, and it's not going to be ready till 2016 because I have to do so much research. We're going to go through the history of mankind and show how Jesus has tried to get his bride. He can get his bride once he gets mankind right with him. And he tries different methods of reaching men, like there's the Edenic, the Adam and Eve, where all they had to do was just don't eat of the forbidden fruit, and then Jesus could have had his bride. But the Satan came in there and messed that up. And then there was the next dispensation where, anyway, so I'm going to show Jesus constantly trying to get his bride and Satan constantly messing it up. And yet, God, in his foreknowledge, knowing that all this would happen. So it's not like he's surprised, but it doesn't stop him from experiencing the emotions he goes through as he's disappointed each time the human race fails to obey God the Father or God. And so then you have during Noah's time, where God commanded them to multiply and replenish the earth. And what did? They built a Tower of Babel. So this is going to be kind of a really big book. I predict it's going to be like 150,000 words. And so I'm going to show Jesus going through history, trying to get his bride, Satan messing it up, and then Abraham comes on the scene. And Abraham, this is when he tries to choose one family that he can bless, and then through them he can have his bride. So he goes through Abraham, then it's going to be the law, then it's going to be when he comes to, and each time man fails. So it seems like Satan's winning and that Jesus can never have his bride. And anyways, what I mean is the conflict of the book is going to be this. He can have his bride, but he can't have physical intimacy with her unless I come on the scene. Because I am the one who receives his semen, which then goes throughout the whole church. See, Jesus Christ is a deity, so he can't marry human women. So I'm going to set the book up at the beginning where the only way he can be happy is if he can make love to his bride. And the only way he can make love to his bride is I have to come on the scene. So because he has to use a woman with King David genes. Because any other woman, if he tries to give them his semen, she would die. Only a woman with King David genes can receive his semen. And if he can't get a woman to receive his semen, then it means that he can have his bride, but he doesn't get to have intimacy with her. And he would get really depressed about that. Imagine if you were a man and you married a woman, but you couldn't have sex with her. Imagine how you would feel. You say, well, he's God the Father. Well, I mean, he's God. Yeah, but see, I'm trying to present him in a way so you can understand him. He created the human race to have companionship. But he wanted the human race to have free will. So there has to be a triangle. There had to be him, Satan, and the lover. And the lover has to choose between him and Satan. And in every dispensation, the human race chooses Satan over God. And it's just, this is a really hard book to write. It's kind of hard to summarize it, but it's going to be fascinating. I'm going to show how Satan has tried to stop me from coming into existence, how my King David family went from Israel. I've already done research, so I pretty much know where they went. They went from Israel to this area now known as Spain. It was called Iberia around 4 AD. And they lived in this area of Spain and France for about 1,000 years. And they kind of moved around in that area. And they were very devout Orthodox Jews. And Jesus made sure of this because Orthodox Jews don't believe in intermarry with non-Jews. He did this to ensure that the King David genes would stay intact from generation to generation. So he made sure that my King David family was in an Orthodox Jewish family. And so they went to, and I'm going to show how the Romans tried to kill them off because the Jewish race got persecuted, and how Jesus went out of his way to ensure that my particular Jewish families would survive. And Satan tried everything to kill us. We went through the Crusades, and my family would survive that. So I'm going to be I have to go back and do a history study on all the periods on what the Sephardic Jews, because my Jewish family was a Sephardic Jewish family, which means they came from the Spain, the Southern European area. And they spent a lot of their time there from about 4 AD till about, I'd say, till about 1500. And then they went from there to the Netherlands because of persecution, because the anti-Semitism started coming up. It's always been a big problem for the Jews. Then when the Spanish took over the Netherlands, they had to flee, and then they went down to Brazil to a colony called, I think it was New, anyways, they lived in the northern part of Brazil, not very long. Then they had to escape there because the Spanish took over that, and the Spanish were Catholics, and Catholics are anti-Semitic. So then they went to the United States in the 1600s. My family's been here since before the Revolutionary War. So, and then I'm going to jump over to the Japan side, which is the mother's side of the family, and show how Jesus had to go out of his way to preserve the Catherine the Great genes, and how from Vladimir the Great in 1000, a Germanic tribe in Russia had to escape because Vladimir's, when he died for the succession, a lot of his children were getting killed. And so his children had to escape across Siberia. They ended up in the Japans. They intermarried into the Abe clan. And then Satan tried to kill my ancestors over there, so that Satan knew that the Catherine, see, Jesus, I'm going to explain in the book how that in order for the King David woman to come into being, the Catherine the Great genes would need to mix with it. And that's because the only way there could be such a strong intensity of King David and Catherine the Great in one human being, in one baby, is that royal genes are like magnets. And Catherine the Great has a very strong royal genetic profile. So if God created a baby that had the Catherine the Great genes, those Catherine the Great genes would cause any other royal genes in the background to come in, that's the reason I am like the reincarnation of Catherine the Great and King David. It's kind of complicated to explain, but Satan tries to mess everything up. So that Oshu Fujiwara clan, they all died off. They lost in war, and they all had to go into hiding. And then they intermarried even more among each other. But I'm going to be going into showing how Satan tried again and again to kill my ancestors off. And then when I was born, he tried to kill me. I almost died my first month of birth because they saw my genes, and Satan said, "Oh no, we don't need her. This is a Zechariah 9:15 woman." So I'm going to show how I miraculously came into being. And I am literally the reincarnation of King David and Catherine the Great. And I'm going to show how Jesus worked through history to ensure I came into being so he could make love to his bride. See, he makes love to his bride through me in the millennium. And then the next thing Jesus has to accomplish is that I have to marry Brent Spiner, because it's important. Jesus cannot let any woman receive his semen in the millennium if that woman is not already married to a human man. And the marriage has to take place before the millennium. So anyways, my next book's going to be going into this and how Jesus worked everything out and how everything fell into place so that I miraculously came into being, and how it meant Jesus, everything that he can make. He did all this so he could make love to his bride, the church, in the millennium. In other words, I really believe that if I didn't come into existence, Jesus would be doomed to a marriage without making love to his bride. So my whole book's going to be about how Jesus how this meant everything to him. He wanted to have me so bad. He went to the cross and died so he could have a bride he could make love to. And I'm also going to be dealing with a lot of theological questions like, why did he create hell? Why did he create Satan? It's going to be a really deep book, and it's basically the love story of Jesus Christ and how he would do anything to make love to his bride.